Fantastic shots from pit lane for the CAMS Pace Australian Formula 4 Championship, and I love that helmet. Smash it and smash it out of the ballpark. Good way to lead your life as a race driver. Lewis Leeds is sitting down there in pit lane. Rob James has joined me, Darren Smith, here in the commentary booth. Rob, these Formula 4s just about to set sail on an 11-lapper. Not the last race for the weekend. We've got one more to come later on in the day.
Exactly right, Darren. We're in the middle of round 2 of the CAMS Pace Australian Formula 4 Championship. Our 5th consecutive visit to the venue. Since day dot in 2015, CAMS Formula 4 has visited the glorious Sydney Motorsport Park. It's one of the best open-wheel racetracks that we're certainly blessed with around the country, and these guys are in for a treat as well. It's regarded as one of the many favourites. We've got some quality tracks this year. We've, of course, started the season at the Formula 1 Rolex Australian Grand Prix with Lewis Leeds taking victory in that round, and he's continued on that form here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Quickest in Friday practice, but no points there. Qualifying for the catch-all pole position, that was important, and victory in race 1. 3 seconds over that man on screen, Lockie Hughes. It was a dominant display by the young Victorian.
Rob, just hark back to the Rolex Australian Grand Prix with these guys. How much of a thrill was it for these young race car drivers to get out there on the Albert Park racetrack and be in view of the whole world? Formula 1 paddock, they race past it every lap. How much of a thrill was it?
It was actually hard to keep it a secret. I'll give you an intersectum view, Darren. We knew about this probably late last year, and all the kids were asking me, are we going to go to the Grand Prix? I'm like, I don't know, mate. You'll have to find out later in the year. And of course, we were able to confirm it early in the year that we're in fact racing there. And it was a brilliant spectacle. I mean, it took a few years for us to get there, but for these 15, 16, 17-year-old guys, they absolutely had a ball at the Australian Grand Prix. It was the perfect start to the season, but our attention now is Sydney Motorsport Park here at the Shannons Nationals, where of course we'll later visit in the year at Phillip Island and conclude at the Bend in South Australia as we head out for race 2.
Couple of great tracks to go racing at too. Sydney Motorsport Park, Phillip Island, the Bend. These tracks are absolutely awesome. You mentioned earlier in the weekend a double round at Phillip Island.
Yeah, that'll be busy for everyone concerned. So if you're not familiar with the Australian Formula 4 format, it's normally 3 races of qualifying and 2 practice sessions. This weekend it's the standard format, but these guys always want to go racing, and last year we trialled the double round at Winton Motor Raceway. Instead of 3 races, we had 6. We crammed in 2 rounds into one weekend. And all these guys want to do is just go racing. They hate standing around the pit lane doing nothing. They want to be out on track.
Can I just say on the double rounds, I love them. Well, because they get so much track time. By the last 2 races of the weekend, they're driving better than they ever have. They've got the feel there. They've done so many laps at the venue in that one weekend that they are absolutely right at their upper echelon of their current abilities. They'll grow, they'll get better race drivers, but at the end of those double rounds, at Winton last year, they were some absolute cracking races, really strong racing, and these are young blokes that are driving these cars, and it was a race like I'm not going to say Formula 1S, but certainly above their current experience level, and that is because in that one weekend, they're doing 6 race starts, they're doing 6 race finishes, learning how the car works, so big fan of those double rounds. They work well.
Exactly. I mean, these cars look like miniature Formula 1 cars, and the drivers as well, they behave like Formula 1 drivers. They're saying, I've got aero wash when I'm following the other cars. So it's the same old excuses that we hear in F1 all the way back down to F4. The aero wash here is actually, it does occur. It's not, an aberration like a ghost or something.
Not a fallacy.
No, it actually exists. You can feel the grip just sliding away as you get close, too close to the car, and you just need to time that perfectly in terms of corner exit and then getting onto the front straight. We saw Emerson Harvey racing yesterday. This is his 2nd ever motor race. He's had years of experience in karting, but it's a whole new world in circuit racing for young Emerson, and he was racing against the very experienced now Jackson Walls, and hopefully Emerson can sort of process, have a night's sleep, thinking about what he was doing. At least he finished the race yesterday. That's the important thing. It's bum in seat time for these guys. That's how they're going to excel in their motor racing careers.
Lockie Hughes in his 2nd season of F4 as well. He'll start this race in the number 15 from position 4, and I really like the way they line up, very Formula 1-esque, and peel off into their grid positions. This is a really good part of Formula type car racing. Open wheeler, wings and slicks, we love it, and big inclusion of the Shannons Nationals over the last 2 seasons with Formula 4, as we're just seeing our pole sitter Jackson Walls looking to pluck off his grid position. Support from Patocki along the side of that car. So looking forward to a bit of a ham sandwich for lunchtime. So supporting the sponsor's product there as he peels off. There is our grid. Jackson Walls for Objective Racing on pole with Tommy Smith for SCT Logistics. Antonio Astudi in the AGI Sport Car. Big weight on the AGI team. They've had a very happy hunting ground here at Sydney Motorsport Park since the inception of Formula 4. Then it's Lockie Hughes, Lewis Leeds, Emerson Harvey and Ryan Sewell. Has Ryan Sewell actually joined us on the grid?
As we see the race start now, the revs are rising. Tommy Smith, Jackson Walls, he'll get the launch off the line. It's fairly even. Jackson Walls, a brilliant start off the line. Tommy Smith just gets it bogged down. Lockie Hughes, the big winner in that, starting from P4. He's currently second, right behind Walls. But Tommy Smith around the outside through turn 1. Can he hang on in there? It's a little bit dirty around the outside as they approach turn 2. Jackson Walls currently in the lead. A gaggle of Formula 4 cars, I should say, approaching turn 2. And we see Lockie Hughes get airborne contact between, I think it was he and Antonio Astudi. I think
that's broken something in the left rear of that car. These cars don't like slamming on the ground like that. Have a look at Ryan Sewell in the blue BRM entry pushing his way through. Lewis Leeds had absolutely nowhere to go off the start there. He got a good start, but he was absolutely boxed in. He looked left, he looked right, he looked down the inside, looked around the outside, but couldn't get through. And he has found his way into position 3. Of course, started off out of 5. It looked like he was going to be boxed in, but that's certainly that coming together has assisted his move up the field. Here we go.
We have a replay now where we see Tommy Smith and Lockie Hughes. Looks like Antonio Astudi's front right just tags the back of Lockie Hughes' BRM. They're not rally cars. They don't like to jump up in the air that much. And unfortunately, we see Lockie Hughes peeled off onto the grass here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Hopefully he's in a safe spot. We don't have to see a safety car.
So 11 laps is the journey here, and it's Jackson Walls in the Objective Racing outfit. Pace stickers across the airboxes of all these cars, the series sponsor. Big thanks to Pace for their continued support with Formula 4 here in Australia. And our entire field now streams down the downhill run here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Top gear, tip it into turn 1, hang on brave, flat to the floor. And around they go. Ryan Sewell with support from Ray White Real Estate on the front of that car.
See Lewis Leeds having a crack at his own teammate Antonio Astudi. A little bit too far up the road for him to do that as we see the cars compress through turn 2. And again, that gap just ekes out. But Jackson Walls hanging on in there. He's actually set the fastest first sector out of everybody. But again, Lewis Leeds, same situation as yesterday. Fastest in the second and third sectors now. Jackson Walls, Antonio Astudi, Lewis Leeds, your top 3. Ryan Sewell yesterday had a driveline failure aboard that BRM machine, but he's done well to recover at P4.
Jackson Walls leaving number 11's exiting turn 4 that time around, getting sideways. Any bit of wheel spin out of it there and applying the throttle. Lewis Leeds goes
big.
off.
That's our championship leader running wide, attacking the cones. He'll get away with that damage, but he'll be filthy that he has run wide and is currently sitting in last place at the moment. Still points playing position for Lewis, but he'll be eager to extend that championship lead. We'll see a replay now. See Ryan Sewell and Lewis Leeds just getting stuck into each other. Again, same thing. It's almost like intra-team revenge with Astudi and Hughes. It's Leeds and Sewell.
Ryan Sewell getting very aggressive down there. He sent it down the inside, got himself good track position into turn 6, held it in there. Lewis Leeds had to, I guess, ease out of it, and in the end he ended up hitting those orange cones. Gets back on track, but he's a distance down from these guys now. So Lewis Leeds got a bit of work to do in the number 23. Ryan Sewell, who's doing dual duties this weekend, of course, racing in the Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge and in the Cam Space Australian Formula 4 Championship. So he'll be well attuned to local conditions out on track right now.
Full credit to the team that produced the course. I mean, I don't want to put the commentators kibosh early, but Jackson Walls, night and day, this Patrizzi course car in terms of what it was like yesterday and indeed Friday. They were chasing set up a little bit. Jackson was, wears his heart on his sleeve, does the young man from New South Wales. His home round here at Sydney Motorsport Park, but he's doing well to be currently leading on lap 3 of this 11-lap race. He's eager to snatch his first career win. Could this be the round, perhaps?
Antonio Astudi looks as though he's got ambitions for that top spot as well. And here comes Ryan Sewell. Ryan, of course, started rear of grid in car number 5. He's now found his way into P3. and he's all over the back of Astudi. And in fact, I don't think Astudi cares too much about that. He's got eyes for the car in front. In fact, I think he's got eyes for the corner up ahead. It's just being blocked out by Jackson. Have a look at Jackson checking the mirrors, head jagging from left to right, all the way on the run from the hairpin up to the top of the hill here. The sweep left, the sweep right. Bit of understeer on initial turn-in, and this is where Antonio and Ryan Sewell are able to make up that millimetres each time that he's checking his mirrors. Great part of open wheeler racing, and these guys, you can see when they're adjusting the steering wheel. Out from the draft comes Astudi, down the inside, positions the car strong for the run to turn 1. And will he get through? He sweeps through, but watch out, here comes Ryan Sewell. Jackson Walls needs to cover off the inside run to turn 2, or is he just going to try and send it up on the car number 39?
That was absolutely brilliant. Well done to all three. Their experience showing here at Sydney Motorsport Park, side by side through turn 1. Belief in grip, belief in downforce, belief in their own skills and abilities. Brilliant racing by the top through. Jackson Walls, he's looking in his mirrors now. He's just got that pressure underneath him with Ryan Sewell, a very hungry man after did not start from yesterday with that driveline failure. He's a hungry man this weekend. Of course, double duties, as we mentioned before, in Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge. He's having a look now.
Jackson Walls needs to have his eyes up and forward at the moment, and what Ryan Sewell is seeing is a very nervous guy in position number 2, continually checking his mirrors, and what that's doing is allowing Antonio Astudi to drive away out in front at the moment. Jackson Walls is absolutely consumed by his mirrors at the moment. He needs to have his eyes up, his head up, and drive at the next few corners. Just forget about what Ryan Sewell's doing. Ryan has to get through on him. He doesn't have to let him through. This is our car leading the race at the moment. It's only a lead of just on 1 second, but it's quite a long time because the cars all behind her. You can't even measure the gap between them. Let's say 0.1 of a second between second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth at the moment. The biggest lead we've seen in this race over the last 3 laps is now with Antonio Astudi.
Ryan Sewell having another look into turn 1 on the inside. He's on the right line. Jackson Walls will just hope to hang on in there approaching turn 1 and just get back on him at turn 2, but it's pretty hard to recover once you're in this position. He's having a look now. Not quite does the sensible thing and backs out of it. He'll want to think the long-term game in terms of this race and even perhaps defend against also a very hard-charging Tommy Smith now. They'll be colleagues in Asian F3. Tommy Smith already had a couple of rounds over there juggling his Australian F4 commitments. Jackson Walls also heading in that Asian F3 series in the future this year.
So Astudi out in front to Ryan Sewell, who was charged from rear of grid, stayed out of the little melee that occurred down at turn 2 in the opening lap. And Ryan Sewell currently hard charger in this race. Jackson Walls, Tommy Smith, Lewis Leeds fighting back, and that's the cone that got dispatched from out of underneath his car. Going back 2 laps ago, the number 23 car hanging on nicely. A really strong, tight line coming out of the back of Corporate Hill. Lines up Tommy Smith now. He should have good drive out of the hairpin. They tuck right under. They're almost sharing the same silhouette on the head-on shot for the live streaming. Again, our race leader. Yellow gloves up in the air, just a finite adjustment, burning a perfect type of millimetre adjustment there. And making sure that the car sits nicely coming onto the straight, the long run down the straight.
This is a really close battle across the field as we're seeing Lewis Leeds having a pass on Tommy Smith. 3 wide as we approach turn 1. Tommy Smith in the middle, Jackson Walls on screen left. He's going around the outside of turn 1. Does well to actually get ahead of those two. Tommy Smith now also wanting to have a crack into turn 2. Lewis Leeds around the outside of turn 2. Not much grip on that side of town. Side by side with Tommy Smith, the team rivals. And Lewis Leeds again runs wide off track at turn 2 on the exit. Picks up all that gunk and rubbish onto the side of the track. That won't be handy for grip on his Hankook tyres.
What it has done, though, is it's given Jackson Walls a moment of relief. His head has been switching from mirror to mirror like one of those clowns at Luna Park when you put the ball in and get a prize. Now he can just keep his eyes up and forward. Keep your eyes out of the mirrors, Jackson, and get on with this race. A very talented young driver, but seems to be consumed with the action behind his rear wing at the moment. I'm sure if he keeps his eyes forward, he'll be able to keep up and try and bridge that gap back to Ryan Sewell. We've still got 6 laps. We're exactly half race distance here, so plenty of time to still try and push hard to get these 2 guys out in front. There's the number 11 now.
sense of deja vu with yesterday's race, although a different driver. Emerson Harvey on the back of his teammate this time, Tommy Smith. Yesterday, it was Jackson Walls he was chasing position for yesterday. Again, his second ever circuit race. A lot of experience in karting, but it's a whole new planet in the world of Formula 4 and circuit racing. As we focus on our leaders now, Antonio Studi has just under a 1 second lead. That gap, Ryan Sewell has taken a 10th out. AGI Sport, Team DRM, the classic Formula 4 battles, the foundation teams of this championship. And they're fairly even pickings in terms of time. Ryan Sewell fastest in the first sector, Antonio Studi fastest in the second sector. So we're just seeing that gap just diminish slightly. I reckon this race might go down to the wire for top spot here.
Interesting looking at those lap times too, Rob, is that the fact that the final car in this race is Lewis Leeds, and he's actually set the fastest lap of the race, trying to chase the field back down after he had the off at turn 6, a 1:31.9, and it's only Ryan Sewell that's been in the 1:39s as well. He's at a 1:39.94, so a couple of hundredths of a second between Ryan Sewell and Lewis Leeds as far as lap times are concerned. The difference is that Ryan Sewell's now in position 1, started from the back. Lewis Leeds started from near the front, and he's now down the back. So role reversal. Great driving by Ryan Sewell and Antonio Studi, particularly by Ryan Sewell coming off the back, and he has swathed his way through this field.
I reckon the behaviour of that Antonio Studi car is a little bit wobbly. We just saw it approaching into the braking zone, just the back end stepping out ever so slightly, but it's enough to reduce that sort of pace for young Antonio. As you see Ryan Sewell getting closer and closer to the rear of Antonio Studi. He'll certainly be keen to be snatching that race win.
Certainly great shots with the high definition, seeing the driver's hands come up and the adjustments there. Antonio Studi covering off nicely the inside run, probably a manoeuvre that Jackson Walls should have done.
I reckon he gave him a little bit of a bump draft there, did Ryan Sewell. He's going around the outside of turn 2.
That's brave.
That's super brave and experienced, good driving by him, of course. Race earlier this morning in the GT3 Cup Challenge Porsches. He's certainly race fit today.
Good on Ryan Sewell for trying these 1%ers. These are the things that make the difference between any old race driver and a champion. Ryan Sewell going, right, there's 1% chance this can work. I've got to give it a go. I've got 4 more laps. I've got to keep trying something here. I've got to send it on Antonio Studi. I've got to get his attention and hopefully confuse him or distract him at what he's doing. At the moment, I would say Antonio Studi has taped over the mirrors and he's just getting on with his own race.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprised if we see the arm come out and he's piffing his mirrors out of that car. It's the last thing you want to be looking at. You don't want to acknowledge the fact that you've got a car breathing down your neck and just hearing the tyres just squealing just a little bit. Conditions a little bit different to yesterday. Of course, we're in the middle of the afternoon here at Sydney Motorsport Park. It was really warm yesterday. Some relatively fresh tyres. These tyres have now done a qualifying session and a race yesterday. So they're in that sweet spot at the moment between sort of grip and that wear rate. So they're not too sticky, but they're also not too shiny as well, these Hankook slicks, providing ample grip for these Formula 4 races. That's why we're able to see such brave commitment through turn 1, one of the fastest corners in Australian motorsport. Ryan Sewell not as close to Antonio Studi this time around, but is he thinking the longer term picture in terms of getting the run down into turn 2? Again, he's looking around the outside of the Studi here.
Some good brave racing. Ryan Sewell trying to set it. This time he's a lot more online. They interlock wheels. No coming together.
No
yes,
way.
They do. Could they have caused damage to either of the cars there? Again, that's one of those chances. You're way up the odds. We've still got 2.5 laps remaining in this race. Has they caused any damage to either of those cars? They did interlock wheels. I thought they were going to get away with it, but they didn't. Antonio Studi seems to be travelling on all right, as does Ryan Sewell. Doesn't look like there's been any damage. It'll probably take the best part of half a lap or so to see if we've got a deflating tyre out of either one of them, if they've given it a bit of a cut or something like that, or some wing damage. But excitement aplenty at the front of this Cam's Pace Australian Formula 4 Championship. Race number 2 for the weekend, of course. They will have the final race for the weekend starting at about 5 to 4 this afternoon.
This was always going to happen as we see a replay of Ryan Sewell making that attempt on Antonio Studi. Just the back end steps out. These cars are really easy to spit out. They're not that forgiving when the back end steps out. So brilliant save by Antonio Studi to hang on in there. And hopefully there's not too much damage aboard either car. Good on them for having a crack though. but perhaps our driving standards advisor, Carl Reindler, may have a word to a couple of these drivers. But so far, really hard racing at this race 2 of the Campus Pace Australian Formula 4 Championship.
Emerson Harvey in his Shannons Insurance Miguel Formula 4 car has got his mirrors filled with the number 23. In fact, he's half a number better. It's 23 versus 46 here at the moment. Or is it 76? My apologies, 76 there at the moment. Sends it round the outside. Emerson Harvey hangs on nice. Good, mature driving. If you want to go around there, Lewis, we've said it for about 3 laps now with Ryan Sewell. It's 1% chance it's going to come off. Didn't lose concentration, and the Shannons Miguel with Emerson Harvey at the wheel continues on.
Good defence by Emerson Harvey with the very experienced Lewis Leeds. I'd be absolutely packing it at the moment if I saw a driver like Lewis Leeds right behind me, but he's doing an absolutely brilliant job to defend that 4th place.
So far, Rob, you've been piffing wheel nuts out the side of the car, and now you're packing it because you're getting pressure. Mirrors, sorry, not wheel nuts, mirrors. I like it. Piffing things out and packing it. Race drivers don't tend to pack it. They bring it on, don't they?
Exactly right. Lewis Leeds just having a think about getting that pass on Emerson Harvey. Around the outside again, he's probably setting himself up for that run. Jackson Walls at the moment just ahead of him as well. He's the sort of the journeyman at the moment. P3 for young Jackson. A massive improvement on so far this weekend for young Jackson in the Petrucci Corsa objective racing entry.
Got to say, well done to Emerson there, getting out of it. Lewis set him up for that pass right back around Corporate Hill. There was absolutely nothing to gain to try and stick the nose and hold it in there. It probably would have ended up with both of them spearing off to the outside of the track and a DNF for both of them there. So Emerson Harvey, great maturity there in the Shannons Miguel, doing a tremendous job. I guess now, Rob, one of the good things that Emerson could do is follow Lewis Leeds. Try and stay with Lewis Leeds. Vastly more experienced, world-renowned Formula 4 driver, and stay with him. Just learn some things about where he can put the car on the track.
You know, whenever you go to a high go-kart track, you always get the lecture of if someone's faster, let them through, because you actually might learn something off them. This applies in this case as well. Lewis Leeds with ample amount of experience. The best thing Emerson could do, let him pass, follow what he's doing, and then copy him in race 3 later this afternoon. So it's, I guess, just copy the best in the business in this case. It's hard to compare the 2 careers so far, but Emerson Harvey doing a great job to hang on in there in 5th place. As we see the leaders now, Antonio Estudi, Ryan Sewell. They had a little bit of a coming together earlier in this race on this final lap, but the cars have just hung on in there. It's very strong, these Miguel Formula 4 cars, enough to sort of have a little bit of wheels touching each other. But of course, these guys are experienced, they're brave, they're going to race hard against each other. So
let's just not get them airborne. They don't like going a metre up in the air and smacking back down on the ground. Antonio Estudi, a fantastic drive. Ryan Sewell in the mirrors of him here, a fantastic drive. It's AGI Sport that will lead this race down to the line.
Ryan Sewell, a much-deserved P2 for the Team BRM pilot, as we see Antonio Estudi take his first win here at Sydney Motorsport Park at the Shannons Nationals. Ryan Sewell P2, Jackson Walls, and Lewis Leeds and Jackson Walls. I reckon Leeds just got Jackson Walls for P3. What was the mark? It was a 1/10 of a second. A brilliant fight back for Lewis Leeds from last to 3rd.
Fantastic drive from both Ryan Sewell and Lewis Leeds at different times coming through from the rear of the field. But Antonio Estudi, celebrate this victory. That was a fantastic drive. Surviving a first corner incident, surviving numerous attacks, but driving at the front of the field, did a strong job indeed. For AGI Sport, Antonio Estudi bringing it home in P1. Ryan Sewell from the back of the grid for Ray White Real Estate doing a strong job. The 23 Red Racing driver of Lewis Leeds over Jackson Walls for Objective Racing, Emerson Harvey home for Shannons Insurance and Focus on Furniture, and Tommy Smith for SCT Logistics in 6th place.
Need to catch our breath here. That was actually pretty thrilling across the field. A lot of different battles. Probably wasn't expecting that result, to tell you the truth, but this is the glory of reverse grid racing.